Okay, so for step 3, I'm actually going to teach you how to hold your needles when you're knitting, because it's not the most natural thing in the world. So your right hand is always going to have control the yarn that's attached to the ball. And it's really important how you hold it because it keeps the tension in the yarn so that it makes your stitches even. So I see a lot of people doing this where they hold the yarn with their fingers like this and they move it around they work it with this. Now all that's going to happen is it's going to make your hand cramp. And people who do that also have a tendency to make their stitches really, really tight. So it's not the best way to do it. The best way to do it is have it in a manner that you wrap it around your hand, and there's a couple of different methods that I'll show you, and eventually you'll find one that feels the best to you. And that way, instead of grabbing the yarn and wrapping it around your yarn needle, you're actually just moving your hand like this. And it's just a lot easier on your wrists and your fingers so that you don't get a cramp later, which is not really what you want. So the way that I hold it is I have my hands, the yarn between my pointer and my middle finger, fairly close to the needle itself, and it sort of pinches it, and that is how I control the tension, whether or not it's too tight or too loose. If you don't have any sort of tension on the yarn at all, it's impossible when you lay the yarn around your needle to create a stitch. It's really, really loose, and you don't want that. You want to be able to have sort of these snug stitches that you lay across the needle. At the same time, if it's too tight, your stitches are going to be really, really tight along the needle, and so you're going to need to loosen up the way that you hold the yarn. So that's the way I do it. Again, is I stick it between my pointer and my middle finger on my right hand, and then on the underside, it's sort of held underneath and between my ring and my pinky finger. And as I knit, the yarn naturally draws through my fingers, and it keeps tension, and it just sort of flows through. I don't ever have to struggle to get it to go between my fingers. The way my mom does it, and a lot of people do, is because her tension, doesn't work for her. It doesn't keep enough tension in order for her to get the tension that she needs. The way that she does it is she wraps it around her hand once. So again, she lays it over her hand, and then she just scoops it around so that it's wrapped around her hand. And then I think she does it around her finger again so that it's wrapped a couple times around her hand. I find that for me, this makes the tension too tight, so that my stitches are too tight when I lay them along the needle. Again, people do it different ways. The way my grandmother always used to do it is she would wrap it around her pinky finger a couple times, and then she would put it around her pointer finger. So that's another way of doing it, is wrapping it around your pinky finger and then around either 2 fingers or 1 finger. I think she used to do 2 fingers. But for me, I just put it between 2 fingers and held in place, again, with my ring and pointer finger. And I keep the tension by pinching my my pointer and ring finger together. A lot of times too, my middle finger is actually bent down, so you'll see it sort of looks like a pointing hand rather than like this. Your left hand the left-hand needle should lay across your hands just like this. So across your middle ring and your pinky finger. And this finger should lay along the point of the needle. What this is going to do is it's going to prevent your stitches from sliding off. But as you start knitting and pulling the stitches off the left needle, it helps to be able to sort of shift the stitches up along the needle. When you cast on, you might have a bunch of stitches that are hanging out on the wire, and that's fine. As you knit, you're just going to have to start sliding them along the needle to present them in order to be knit. So that's how you hold your needles. Again, your pointer finger should be at the tip of, or the point of the needle on this side. This hand is going to control the tension, like this, and you just hold the your needle in your left hand. It should mirror your right hand, but the only difference is that it's holding the yarn. So you just gotta practice this and just make sure whatever sort of feels right to you and is most comfortable to you. And so that is how you hold your needles.